Okay, so I just thought I was gonna talk about Aquarius moon right now because I saw a post and part of this like Aquarius moon group, and this is one of the placements that is really hard for the moon to be in, or it's the moon is not comfortable being in the sign of Aquarius. It's not comfortable being in the sign of Capricorn either, because both of those signs are ruled by Saturn. And I said this in a video before that Saturn isn't really emotional and the moon has everything to do with emotions, right? So it's there's a dilemma here, right? So when we talk about Aquarius moon, right? Um the moon represents like the right side of the brain, or the emotional side, right? It represents emotions. So how we process emotions and feelings. Mercury represents how we process stimuli and information in a logical way, like with our thoughts, right? So emotions aren't logical, right? It's all feeling realm, right? So this is how the moon processes, is through feeling and emotion, and then having that is instinctual kind of method, whereas Mercury, right, is more analytical and logical with the steps that it takes, right? So when when we talk about Mercury, Mercury is again it rules Gemini, and rules Virgo, right? So for example, right, Mercury plays out in Gemini, right? Gemini is a masculine, the masculine expression of Mercury, right? So you'll see Mercury, who is after information, who is going for communication. You'll see it play out in Gemini because in an expressive way, because Gemini will be the one to ask the question. Mercury, when we talk about Virgo, Virgo is the one that want to answer the question. They want to, or take it apart, or take the answer apart, right? Because Mercury, in terms of Virgo, expresses itself internally, right? So it wants to formulate ideas, right? But the way that it does it in Virgo is taking the question or the idea inside and like breaking it down, analyzing it, being critical of it, and then coming to a conclusion. Whereas Gemini just want a consensus. That's why Gemini is like, they're so that's why they communicate a lot with a lot of different people, right? Is because they want a consensus, right? Right. So whereas the moon now rules Cancer, sorry, the moon rules Cancer, but the moon now don't really rely on like, well, this happened before, so this is gonna happen again. Like with logic, the moon don't do that. The moon shows us our like reactive, like how we react to stimuli and stuff, right? Mercury is how we process things in a logical way, right? That's how we react to stimuli via Mercury, is through processing in an analytical way. Not diving too deep, right? So I wanted to do Moon in Aquarius because Moon in Aquarius is, it's hard to understand them. Some like it's hard to really understand this placement because Aquarius is naturally detached, um, and so when the emotional process comes into Aquarius, these people their biggest issue, and I say this as an Aquarius moon, the biggest issue with Aquarius moons is learning to connect um with their emotions in their body, like learn how to feel their actual emotions. It's different from Capricorn because both of these signs are ruled by Saturn. Capricorn and Aquarius are ruled by Saturn, right? But I said this, I said this in another video, that Capricorn is the feminine expression of Saturn, so it'll create structure for its emotional um reactions, right? Saturn in Capricorn, right? It makes Capricorn real structured, right? Internally. And so when, if for example, say you have moon in Capricorn, then these people, they repress just like moon in Aquarius will repress, but they do it like this is a more conscious repression, right? This is a more like they understand why they're doing it, right? This ain't to say it's good, right? But this is the issue when you have the moon coming up into a sign that it doesn't do well in, right? It doesn't do well in Scorpio either because of the intensity of the emotions, how deep they actually go. When it comes to things like to signs like Capricorn and Aquarius, right, ruled by this very earthy planet, which is Saturn, the repression comes about in when we talk about Capricorn, they know very well like that they are repressing, right? And they just deal with that in a different way. They create a structure, right? An emotional structure. Like as soon as I catch this feeling, um, they have an action that they're gonna take to deal with that feeling. With Aquarius, right? The repression is more like, well, I'm just gonna deal with it later, right? Because simple fact about Aquarius is a fixed air sign, right? It's the last air sign in the zodiac, but it's ruled by, again, Saturn, right? So like they don't do well. They're so forward thinking because it's co-ruled by Uranus, right? So Aquarius isn't really here in the present for the most part. Like when you're talking about any planet that's in Aquarius, it don't really exist in the present. Just so how the opposite of Saturn is the moon, right? The moon's always like in the past, right? Because the moon rules water, and water is memory, right? And so the moon is more comfortable, comfort being the key word for the moon. It's comfortable in familiarity, which is the past, things that it has experienced before. Aquarius, being co-ruled by Uranus, is the scientist, right? They want to experiment, and so they are more comfortable with things that they don't know about. So they go and they learn it, or they have to. Because watch this, most Aquarius placements will tell you that they don't know until they do, right? And so Aquarius moons have this thing about them where they're gonna put themselves in certain situations that they aren't they haven't figured those situations out yet emotionally, but they're gonna put themselves in them situations so that they can learn about that. The only way for them to make sense of it is if they put themselves in it. And this is the point I'm trying to make, is that for an Aquarius moon to really connect with their emotions, they have to look to Leo, which is the performer, right? Being in the body, right? Performing or expressing, right? Leo is expressing, because if you think about it, right? Leo is the expression of emotion, right? Fifth house, expression of emotion. The sign that came before it is what? Cancer. And I talked about this. Cancer is the moon, right? Cancer is ruled by the moon, which is actual emotion, right? Which is actual, like how you were nurtured, what makes you feel comfortable emotionally, right? Then right after that, boom, Leo, which is the expression. So you're pushing it out. Leo is ruled by the sun, so you're pushing out that expression. Opposite to that, you have Aquarius, right? So Aquarius is good with observing, right? So if you're like at a play, Leo is the actor, right? Leo is the one on the stage, right? Spotlight's on Leo, everybody looking at Leo, right? The performer. Aquarius represents the masses, the audience, right? So Aquarius would be the one observing all the emotional kind of like displays that Leo is throwing off. So Aquarius, like, they have this kind of God complex, right? Where they're like, I'm above all of that petty ass. Look at that Leo showing the whole ass. Like, look at that Leo showing everything, right? Look at them being petty, talking shit. The Aquarius talking shit about Leo, talking about how they got ego and how they're corny and how they're doing too much, not knowing that what they're doing is fulfilling that Leo Aquarius axis by being a spectator and observing that Leo putting on that show, which is what Leo does, putting on a show, right? Setting the stage, putting on a show. And you not the Aquarius, you sitting there talking shit, but what you're doing is you're affirming the same shit you're trying to kill off, right? You're trying to be like, nah, that's too much. But you sitting there making that judgment, you're doing exactly what the opposite of what that Leo is doing, right? Which is you're observing. That's what the Leo wants. Is more, they want people to. Leo energy wants to be seen. It's a fire sign, right? So fire wants to be seen and felt, right? When you have fire in front of you, you can see it, right? But even if you can't see, you can feel it because you feel the heat, right? And this is why fire and water signs, they're emotional signs, right? Just express it in a different way. So like I was saying, Aquarius needs to learn how to connect to their body, right? They need to learn how to connect their emotions within their body and feel their emotions, right? And so that's why they have to look to Leo to do that, right? Because Aquarius is a air sign ruled by, again, Saturn and Uranus, right? So when it when it comes to uh the moon being an Aquarius, right? These people have difficulty understanding their own emotions because, again, they don't know how to feel them in their body. So what they do, Aquarius in general likes to observe, right? Is Aquarius rules the 11th house, which is the house of the future, right? The future. So that's why they're always like in the future. They're not here in the present. Just like how Cancer is not here in the present, Cancer is in the past. Well, Aquarius is not really here. That's why they can't connect to their body, because they're always thinking about, well, what's going to happen next, right? They're not here with us. They're just thinking what's going to happen next. And this is why they're the scientists. This is why they're the alien minded, right? The future minded, right? So they have a problem connecting. Right now, I'm going to talk about how we can see this play out. Well, it was very simple. Like, if you look at the glyph for Aquarius, which is the symbol for it, it'll look like waves, right? Those waves, I have a whole thing about it. Those waves are representative of you can call, they are not just water waves. It's like waves that you cannot see, right? Waves that you cannot see, because Aquarius carries the message. See, if Leo is the center, right, the star, right, Leo is pushing out. Aquarius is the one that's going to bring the message to people, right? Leo is going to stand on the stage, going to perform and have a message, but Aquarius is the one that's going to bring that message to people, right? And you can see it via waves that we cannot see, vibration that we cannot see, right? So air, like radio waves, Wi-Fi, right? Literally every kind of wave that we can't see. Like, it's not water waves, it's like vibrational waves, right? That's what Aquarius is, right? And you can attribute that to Uranus in a way, right? Because if you look at the two, people get Aquarius mixed up. Like, people think Aquarius is a water sign because it's literally called Aquarius Aqua, and it's called the water bearer. And so don't get it twisted. Aquarius still know about emotions. They know of emotions. They just don't know how to process them, right? The reason being, Aquarius is the observer. How? Why? Well, if you look at it, Aquarius is the water bearer. What's water? Emotion. What they got this water in? A jug, a clay jug. Again, Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, which is an earth planet, right? Saturn has to do with structure. I said this before. So the way Saturn plays out, now I'm going to go into this explanation. The way Saturn plays out in Capricorn, because Capricorn is the goat, the mountain goat. That mountain goat's always climbing, right? What is it climbing? The mountain. Mountains, earth. So Saturn plays out. When we talk about the archetype of Capricorn, Saturn plays out as the mountain, that foundation for that goat to keep climbing, right? Because 10th house is public life. As soon as you step, what's the opposite of 10th house? Your 4th house. The 4th house represents home, origin, zine. So the opposite of home and origin is somewhere where you going. You go in as soon as you left out your house, as soon as you leave out your home, you exit that front door, boom, you're in 10th house territory. If somebody passed you on the street, they just saw your 10th house. If they come and talk to you, they're being exposed to your 1st house. But if somebody just passed you on the street, or they seen you in passing on social media or something in public, they're seeing your 10th house, right? So Saturn plays out in Capricorn as the mountain in which that goat be climbing, right? So Capricorn uses structure. If we talk about Capricorn moons, what their issue is, how they repress is, they have already, because Capricorn moons tend to have had to grow up when they were young, like they tend to have been forced to grow up real early, right? To act like an adult real early in life, right? So what they've done now in order to act like this adult, right? Because as a kid, like, you're supposed to grow up learning how to deal with your emotions, right? Cancer, right? You're supposed to grow up being nurtured in a way so you could deal with your emotions. With the Capricorn moon, okay, what they had to do was they had to develop structure for their emotions. So the moment they catch a feeling, right, they know, all right, well, this is the action I gotta take, so this feeling don't put me off. Like this feeling don't throw me off, right? So I could stay focused on my goal, so these emotions don't get to me. So the Capricorn already has a structure, right, which is the mountain, which they, and this is why I said they can kind of use people, because they'll just use that structure and just step, right? I don't mean to shit on Capricorns. I'm just saying this is how Saturn works, because Saturn is a very like dry and like cold. Okay, Saturn's very dry and very cold. And so in Aquarius and a Capricorn, when you can feel that cold shoulder, bro, you can feel that cold shoulder, right? Because of that's just the way Saturn is, the authoritarian, right? Ain't got nothing to do with emotions. Don't really like to deal with emotions. When we talk about Saturn in Aquarius, now check this. Saturn in Aquarius, remember Saturn is structure. So when we're talking about how Saturn operates in Aquarius, you get to see that like that structure, right? That structure is the water jug. That structure is the water jug that Aquarius carries around, right? The water bearer. And again, Aquarius is the observer. So this is why they're good with trends and stuff. They can observe what's going on with the masses, right? Uranus, and make sense of it, right? When the moon comes into Aquarius, what happens is, remember, that water jug is filling up. Every emotion that Aquarius moon catches and they don't deal with right on the spot, they tend to compartmentalize, just like the Capricorn moon. The Aquarius moon will compartmentalize. But compartmentalizing is easier for a Capricorn moon, because Capricorn is the feminine version, is the feminine expression of Saturn, so it's already going internal, right? They understand that process a little bit better. With an Aquarius, because an Aquarius is the masculine version, it is pushing out, right? When Aquarius moons compartmentalize, they might not they lock that shit so far up, so like they lock that shit up and that shit way far, like deep. So it's hard now for the Aquarius to revisit, right? And I'll tell you when that emotion, like they forget they locked away that emotion, right? They forget they locked away that emotion. So now the Aquarius, getting their jug filled up, locking away all this emotion, right? Putting it to this in the jug. Oh, I'm gonna look at it later. I'm gonna look at it later, right? That jug, remember, is the structure, right? That jug is the structure of Saturn playing in Aquarius, coming up in Aquarius. So they're gonna put their emotions away in this jug. The water's filling up. What happens when the jug is full? Right? What happens when the jug is full? This is when Uranus come in, because Uranus is the great the rebellious one, is like the upright, the one that like represents uprisings and upheavals and change, quick change, right? Uranus sees structure and wants to upend it. Kind of chaotic. Like, for better or for worse, Uranus wants to upend that structure. Uranus don't too much like, it's kind of like an anarchist. It don't too much damn structure. It needs breathing space. Uranus is represented by electricity, right? Because of how quick it is, right? And so when that jug starts to get full, when we talk about the Aquarius moon, aka the repressed emotions, something will happen in their life it could be a small trigger. This is Uranus coming into play now, right? This is why Aquarius is like, they have this kind of outlandish, kind of like progressive kind of way of thinking, because Uranus is like that. Uranus sees things for what it is, but it don't want it to stay that way. It wants it to change all the time. And so you need balance. Obviously, you can't be changing up everything all the damn time. But that's the issue with Aquarius. That's why there's this internal fight, because it's a fixed sign, but even for a fixed sign, Uranus comes in and always wants to change things up. And so this is why they kind of have like, they might have like a nervous energy if they don't have an outlet for Uranus. But when we talk about Aquarius moon, what happens is when that jug gets full and that triggering thing happens, that triggering situation happens, Uranus comes into play. And remember I said Uranus is represented by, like, it's like a lightning bolt, right? Uranus is like a lightning bolt. So how does electricity and water work? How does electricity and water work? Well, water is a conductor of electricity. So what happens is that trigger, that small trigger, is like a lightning bolt hitting that jug of water, right? And the Aquarius moon now goes through what we call a catharsis, but the catharsis is like explosive. Okay, it's an explosive one, right? Because they have so much pent up, repressed emotion. So when that small trigger happens, you want to know, you thought everything was fine because they got a poker face, right? Aquarius and Capricorn placements have a poker face. Thanks to Saturn, right? So now when that happens, when Uranus comes in and nukes everything, right? That Aquarius moon blows up, and everybody's kind of like, and it's scary anger. Like, it's scary because usually, Aquarius people are usually chill. So when you see them pop off, it's scary. It's like a Leo, but instead of fire is electricity, right? And again, if you I always use this analogy when we're talking about when I'm talking about Aquarius and Leo, I always use the analogy of Avatar: The Last Airbender. If you look at the firebenders, right, it's only firebenders that can bend lightning. Okay, it's only firebenders that can bend lightning. Why? Because lightning is like, it's like a higher vibration of fire. Okay, because if lightning strikes a tree, what happens to that tree? It catches on fire. It burns up, right? So if you watch back again at Avatar: The Last Airbender, and look at them firebenders, and you see when they're bending fire, or electricity for that matter, you can see that their stance is wide, right? Their stances are wide. Why is that? Their stances are wide because you need that stability in order to handle all that energy, right? In order to handle all that power, right? If you look at airbenders, they move quick, right? They're very fluid. Waterbenders are fluid in their own way, right? And you can see fire and earthbenders, they kind of got a wide stance, right? Because they need to be able to stabilize in order to handle that energy, okay? So when the Aquarius moon pops off, it's like, well, that's when you see the Aquarius moon throwing out the jug, like throwing the water out of the jug, because they're letting go and releasing all their emotions. What Aquarius is good at, Aquarius moons, they analyze and observe, right? So they'll be looking at their emotional reactions, right? And what they do is they kind of it's a fight because they want to think that they're above it. Aquarius wants to think that they're above those petty emotional reactions. Lo and behold, they are not above those things because they're a human being, right? So because Uranus, right? Uranus is the one that's kind of different, right? Uranus sees the status quo and is in immediate rebellion to it, right? So when so they immediately disregard it. They're like, nah, I don't want to feel that emotion of jealousy. What? I'm better than that. That emotion of sadness? No, I'm better than that. That emotion of inferiority? No, I'm better than that. I'm not feeling that. That's not me. I'm just gonna not deal with that, right? And they want to rationalize it, like, what's the reason for me feeling like this? There must be a reason. Like, they want to rationalize it, but it doesn't work that way. You can't observe and rationalize yourself out of an emotional reaction, right? It just does not happen. The moon doesn't allow for it that way. The moon is saying to you that you have to actually feel it and react to it, right? You have to feel it and react to it. And so this is why Aquarius moons, in order to remedy the situation, right? Because they're looking in, right? They're looking in at the emotions, right? It's the jug, right? The water jug. They're looking in, they're observing the emotion like they're above it, right? But you're not above it. Saturn tells us that we are bound to this physical reality, right? You can, an Aquarius, a Pisces, right, could go up in their head and really think about, oh, they're gonna jump off this building and they're gonna fly, right? Sure, you can do that in your head, but if you was to actually jump off a building without a parachute or anything, Saturn's gonna be there like, you did it. I'm so sorry. Saturn's gonna remind you that there's gravity, boo, and you can't just be doing that shit. You're bound to this physical reality. Saturn tells us that, reminds us of that every single day. Okay, so Aquarius moons, in order to remedy this issue of not being able to connect with their emotions in their body, you gotta look to Leo, right? Stop saying that, Leo doing too much. Da da da. Listen, all them Aquarius that like to talk shit about Leo, bro. I have to tell you, you thought a Leo's ego was big, and it sure is. Yours is bigger. Look at Aquarius. No, how could you say that? I'm too detached for my ego to be big. No, but see, that's the problem. Y'all think you above it. And I say this because I am an Aquarius moon. So I understand. I'm a Leo sun Aquarius moon. I understand where this is coming from, right? So you think you above the emotional displays, right? Leo think they above everybody, and that they can just do what they want and just look at me and stuff like that, right? Obviously both of them have their own vices, but in order for the Aquarius moon to kind of come to terms with this issue of repression, this heavy repression, right, they have to learn to take center stage and to be okay with feeling and expressing their emotions, and not thinking that emotions are like below them or something, right? So just think about it this way: like you have Leo on stage, right? And Leo is doing all these actions, right? The spotlight's on them. The crowd is like observing them, looking at it, taking in everything, taking in all the emotional stuff, right? All the performance, right? So Aquarius is taking in all the performance, right? It's saying that's anger, that's sadness, that's love, da 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 da. So Aquarius can pinpoint, it knows about these emotions, it can name them. But when time now come for them feel it, they actually don't know what it feels like until they get up on stage and speak and act their actual feelings, right? And actually like express it. And that can be a point of that's kind of painful for an Aquarius, because they'd rather be not in the spotlight, they'd rather be observing, right? And they might actually think that expressing like that makes them weak or something, makes them vulnerable. Like vulnerable is not weakness, but vulnerability is not weakness, but they might see it that way. Saturn dominant people and Saturn rule signs stuff see emotional displays and vulnerability as weakness, right? We know that that's not true, but this is how the Aquarius might feel. And the thing is, you have to really embrace that and really like tell yourself that it might feel uncomfortable because this is not the first instinct, right? This is not the first way that you would deal with your emotions. But in order to balance out that tendency to compartmentalize to the point of it being detrimental for your mental health, you have to be able to be comfortable and free expressing, right? And so this is why you got to look to Leo, right? You have to like really understand that it's okay to do that, right? um I just wrote some stuff down, so I'm just seeing if I went over anything, if I went over everything, which I think I did, yeah. So because Aquarius is stubborn, it's a fixed sign just like Leo, so it will be stubborn to do these things. But this is why Aquarius moons are so good with advice, like emotional advice, because again they observe emotion, they observe actions, right? They observe Leo, emotional actions, emotional reactions, so they know what's going to happen next. They just know. Aquarius moons just know, If you come to them and you're like, my man is doing this, he's saying this, but he's doing this. An Aquarius moon will tell you straight exactly what's gonna happen. But they are only able to do this if they can confront and be comfortable with their own emotions and start to feel their emotions in their body and really deal with that, right? Because you'll hear an Aquarius moon and a Capricorn moon, they'll say, "No, I don't cry that much." Like that should make me uncomfortable for the most part. Like, you have to look at the rest of the chart, but usually that's what it is, right? So for Aquarius moons, I would let you know that if you have this issue of compartmentalizing to your detriment, that really take the time to look at Leo placements, at like Leo moons, for example. Or maybe not Leo moons, because they be going overboard sometimes. But take look at some Leo suns and see, because Leo sun, that's the most powerful expression of Leo, right? Because the sun rules Leo. So if you look at Leo suns, you're gonna be able to see that these people stand in their truth. They speak their mind, like they express with full authenticity, right? And they're not afraid to do that. See, because Aquarius is also ruled by Uranus, so it's kind of off kilter. So Aquarius is gonna see a Leo kind of act in one way, right, on stage, for example, and then the Aquarius would come out on stage and play that same role, but they're gonna revolutionize the role, or they're gonna make that role somehow different, like change gender, for example, or sexuality or something, right? They're gonna remix it, right? That's how Aquarius works. So it because Aquarius, they might want to make people feel uncomfortable just so that people could see things differently, right? So the Aquarius moon kind of will, when they get to a certain point where they will react in a certain way to see what other people's reaction is, right? They will react in a wayward, like kind of off kilter way, just to see how somebody else is gonna react, right? So, because don't get me wrong, everything an Aquarius moon does is deliberate. They're deliberate, ruled by Saturn. Don't think for a second that they don't know what they're doing. They do. They know exactly what they're doing, right? So, but anyway, Aquarius moons, just try to get a little bit more acquainted with Leo energy, Leo sun energy, and take the steps to really try and feel, right? Because that's the only way for the Aquarius moon to kind of get over or deal with this issue of repressing and not having emotions, and just like, well, I don't feel. It's not healthy. So yeah, I just thought I had this in my head for a long time. So yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah. Hope it made sense to you.